Welcome back to another episode of Dow from the Riverbank. This is another response to a question. This time the question was asked, how does a teacher find worthy students? I think the real question was, how do I become a good student for a teacher? But let's deal with the whole thing. Traditionally, teachers would test students and their sincerity to learn by ignoring their requests or trying to put them off to see if they had the determination to stick around. That way, they were proving themselves, showing that they had the resolve to complete the training. It wasn't a foolproof method, but it had its uses to weed out those who were not really interested and would not last the course. Another method was the interview method, where teachers would literally interview the student and test them out. In both methods, testing of students would take place at intervals. This usually involved a bit of roughing up the student, I'm understating it a bit, to see if they would return to training and thereby prove they are worthy. Some teachers will pick a certain number of students, and no matter what, they will be the only ones they will teach fully, no matter how good a student may come along later on. It's not ideal, but such attitudes exist. At some point, a student has proven their worth and they would go through what is called Baishe, which is a rite of passage into the indoor student world. Some schools still use this rite of passage. Nowadays, this kind of beginning to a student's life is pretty much all but gone. There are those that still use the interview method, but very few, and almost no one is ignored or put off because everyone is trying to be a full-time professional martial arts teacher and want as many paying students as possible, even though the turnover of students is probably very high. Teachers are in a catch-22 situation. They need good students to pass on the art, but they also need students to pay for the hall, for their travel and their time, and they need students to come along no matter how good or not so good they are, to cover all bases. For me personally, this is all a little bit unsavoury. In the years I have been teaching, I have found that it is impossible to tell who will develop into a good student. I have met some awful students that in truth I'd wish would just not keep coming back, only to see them change and become not only good students, but a top-notch exponent of the arts. You really just cannot tell. So it's not about the teacher finding good students, but more about good students finding the teacher. A good student perseveres even when it seems like the training doesn't make sense. For example, wax on, wax off, we've all seen the film Karate Kid. Good students follow their teacher's advice and ask questions that have been stimulated by their training. Basically, good students keep training when all others would have left long ago. Teachers, in my humble opinion, need to understand and exercise their humanity. In positions of power, it is easy to be cruel. Every teacher is in a position of power, but sadly I have met my fair share of cruel and arrogant, egotistical and unkind martial arts teachers that clearly like to beat up students, that willingly sacrifice themselves on the altar of, I want to learn this art. In demonstration in class, the student is at a huge disadvantage. They have to punch, kick or attack in the method required to show the technique that is being demonstrated by the teacher. But this does not mean that the teacher should then hurt them, drop them to the floor, knock them out, etc. just to prove the technique works, especially when it has been done on a compliant opponent. To me, this proves that the teacher is just cruel and egotistic rather than highly skilled. Basically, it is easier to be cruel in a position of strength than to be kind. However, teachers should not feel that they have to be like this to gain the respect and admiration of their students. A teacher should be kind to their students in terms of hurting them. They have their peers to try and fail with. They will get their beatings enough by such contemporaries and are at less risk of being seriously injured. A word of warning: never mistake kindness for weakness from anyone, or such kindness will go unappreciated and likely unrepeated. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, please follow the link to my Patreon account. Good luck with your training.